you haven't heard of us before, if you're new to DCPL, we, since 1971, we have been a citywide nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving and protecting Washington, D.C.'s historic and built environment. And if you are new to us, just look out in the future. We'll be offering more online events and programs like this in the future. My name is Melissa Laureano. I am DCPL's Programs Associate, and today I will be leading the virtual workshop. So before we get started, just a couple of things. The first thing being, we have a chat that you guys are more than welcome to write into. My colleague, Jessica Unger, she is our new outreach and grants manager. She will be monitoring the chat room in case there's any technical issues that need to be brought to my immediate attention. Otherwise, I will be answering questions at the end. We'll have like a little Q&A session at the end of the presentation. But if anything comes to your mind while I'm going through this, if you're more than welcome to put the question into the chat. And at the end, I will be able to look at them all. If there's anything that I can't answer tonight, and hopefully I will be able to answer everything, I will definitely make sure to make a note of your questions and get those answers to you as soon as possible. This presentation is also being recorded right now. Okay, and Jess will also be monitoring the chat in case anybody, like I said, has any questions. What was I saying? Oh, right. So this is being recorded. If you have to step out at any point, if you need to leave early, that's totally okay. This will be available to you afterwards, and we will hopefully get the recording up tomorrow. So yes, is there anything else I had to cover? All right, so thank you again for joining us. We're going to get started here. And again, if you have any questions at any point, please put them in the chat. Okay, so as we all know, in our current situation, in our current situation, a lot of our favorite archives and libraries happen to be closed right now. We can't really go to them and do our normal kind of archival research. And we're kind of stuck inside, but that doesn't mean that we can't still explore the history of our city and its many important sites. And we have a lot of wonderful online resources available to us that still make it possible for us to explore the history of our homes, our favorite historic sites, or our neighborhoods. So that's what we'll be going over today. So today we will explore some online resources, some of our favorites here that we go to at DCPL when we're doing our own historical research on the sites that we're trying to protect. I'm going to show you kind of like an example. I have a site ready that I'm interested in looking more into, so I'll kind of take you all on that journey as I kind of look through these databases myself. And then again, we will do our question and answers at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to put them into the chat. All right, so where to begin? I think whether you are new to doing historical research online or in general, or you're a seasoned researcher, I think once you get started on a new project, it can be pretty overwhelming. I think especially we all know that there's just so much information on the internet. When you're beginning something, you know, it's like, where do I start? Where do I start looking? How do I go about this? I always like to say, as somebody who is a historian, you know, it's always good to go in with a question or a goal. You know, whether that be who was the original owner of this house, or what was the neighborhood like at this moment in time? Who lived in this neighborhood, who used this site. So it's always good to ask yourself at the beginning, what am I hoping to learn? And what am I really looking for? I mean, again, these databases are so vast, if you kind of just want to throw yourself into it and just start kind of looking around, you're obviously more than welcome to. But I always think it's great to have something kind of guiding you, because truth be told, once you get started, once you're really into your research, you're going to just start developing more and more questions. And that's kind of the wonderful thing about history is there's always something to learn. There's always something that you want to learn. And that's the same with historic sites. So this might be a fun little thing that we can do to kind of introduce ourselves to each other, because this is a workshop. If you would like to, and if you have anything you'd like to share, you could maybe write in the chat, what is something that you're currently researching, or what is something that you're hoping to find out right now? And you can write those in, and we can kind of look through them together. If anybody has anything they'd like to share. So I'll give you guys a few moments. You can type them in, and I can read them. All right. And if not at this moment, that's totally fine. We can always, in the Q&A, go over them as well. I know there's a lot to learn. Okay, well, think about that, and you're more than welcome to share it. And, oh, maybe somebody did. Let's see. Okay. Oh, the history of Connecticut Ave strip around the Avalon Theater. I'm asking myself whether that 3 to 4 block strip could be a historic district. Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, that's wonderful. Good question, Jesse. And sometimes this activity is good for, if somebody's interested in the same thing you're interested in, it could always be a great opportunity to start collaborating. So wonderful. Thank you, Jesse, for letting us know what you're interested in, what you're working on. Oh, Jess said from Facebook, one of my quarantine projects has been looking into the history of my home and its former residents. Yeah, that's always a great, that's always a great project. You're living in your home, and it's pretty interesting to find out who lived there before you, or who was the original owner. And then Greta said, what buildings were actually at the foot of 11th Street Bridge today? DHCD has a building at that site. That's great. And Sylvia, I'm trying to learn more about the life of Ida Sproul, who lived in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. She was Rachel Carson's housekeeper. Wow, that's a pretty interesting project. Yeah, so hopefully everybody, keep putting them in. Hopefully what I show you tonight, it will help you kind of take those first steps into your projects, or if you're already working hard in your research, hopefully it will kind of lead you to another place to look. So yeah, thank you again for sharing those. And if you would like to continue to share anything about your project, go right ahead. I will look at them again towards the end when we're doing our questions and answers. Wonderful. All right, so we're starting with a question or a goal. So these are the places I will be talking about tonight. They are some of our go-to websites and places that we go to at DCPL when we're doing our own research. I don't know how familiar you are all with the process of getting something landmarked as a historic site, but it is research heavy. So all the wonderful people on our landmarks committee, which if you're interested, you're more than welcome to volunteer on as well. They do this research to learn more about the buildings that we're trying to protect. And in this presentation, I have a link to a nomination form that you all can look at. You can also see them on our app. Every entry has its own nomination form that you can see. I think it's good to look at nomination forms if you're kind of trying to figure out how you want to construct the information that you're gathering in your research. Nomination forms are like a biography of the site. Why are they significant? What is their history? What about their architecture? Who designed the building? So all of these questions that we have going into trying to get something nominated, it takes a lot of research. So these are the places that we like to look at, and hopefully in your own projects, you will find these helpful. And as I go through each, I will kind of go to their website. I'll show you some features that might be useful to you. And then again, when I'm doing my own little example entry or example research site, you can kind of see it in practice. So we have HistoryQuest, the DC Public Library, Historical Society of Washington, DC, the Library of Congress, and the National Archives and Records Administration. the wonderful thing about all of these sites is they're free. So there's all of this information that you can get for free, and it is available to you. So even though we can't go to the archive can still come to us, and we can still visit it online. So what do they offer? Newspapers, whether they be local or national. Maps are always fun to look at, and I'll show you those in a bit. Whether they be insurance maps or real estate atlases, maps are a wonderful way to see, what did the neighborhood look like around maybe the house that you're researching or the site that you're researching. If you are doing a research project about a neighborhood, maps are wonderful to see kind of over time how it developed, how it changed. If you're trying to find your house on a map, but it wasn't built yet, it's still interesting to see what was there before it, right? So maps are a great visualization for the development of our city and of our neighborhoods. So historical photos, of course, those are always wonderful to explore, really seeing how things change over time, or how buildings change over time. There's also some ways that you can look at permits online or other documents. Usually if you're trying to look at permits, you might go to the National Archives and look at their microfilm section, or the DC Archives. They also have permits as well. So while we can't go there, you can still look at some online. There's a couple of databases I will be showing you and that are included in this PowerPoint presentation that you can refer back to. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, but this PowerPoint will be available on our website. And when I post the video tomorrow, I will also include a link to the PowerPoint as well. There's a bunch of links here, and this could be your own kind of little source of resources, and you can click through them and get to the websites right away, just like I'll be doing tonight. So hopefully this will be a help to you as well beyond the workshop. So yeah, so this is all that they offer online, and we will be starting with HistoryQuest. So my first kind of tip to you all tonight is if you're starting a new project or you're looking into a new building, if you're researching a neighborhood or potential historic district, go to HistoryQuest. It is a color-coded map that was produced by the city, the Historic Preservation Office, which is under the Office of Planning. It includes just a ton of pretty general baseline information about specific historic sites. And I'll go to the website now, but you can kind of see an example of the information that you might get from HistoryQuest DC. So let's head there. Okay. And again, let me know if there's any technical issues or if you guys lose the screen at all, so we can figure that out. But hopefully this will work out. So here is HistoryQuest DC. Again, it pretty much covers every building in Washington, DC, and you can kind of see how it is color-coded. The darker the building silhouette, the older the building is, and then in contrast, the lighter the building silhouette, the more contemporary it is. I always love looking at color-coded maps like this because you really see how the city developed over time, right? And another cool thing about HistoryQuest DC, they have this new feature called DC by the Decades, which I can show you guys if you would like. It's also color-coded, and it's basically a animation. So over time, you see how the building grows. How the city grows. So every decade has its own color, and then it populates the map, and you can kind of see the growth over time. But let me show you, if you're looking for a specific building, what is the kind of information that you can get. So up here in the right-hand corner, we have our search bar. So I'm gonna look up my old dorm that I had lived in previously, 235 2nd Street Northeast. It zooms you into it, and then it pinpoints the building. So I'm going to click on it, and you can see here. So here's all the information it offers. The building name currently. It also has a line here about contributing, which I'll show you a feature in a moment for that. But when it says contributing and it has yes or no, that means, is it contributing to a historic district? And that is always a pretty interesting thing to see and to find out, like, is this building contributing? There's also the square and the lot number. Now, another bit of advice for everybody when you're doing your research, especially if you're going to look at permits or if you're going to look at some of the maps I'm going to show you tonight, make a note of the square and the lot number. Write that down somewhere, because that is going to make the process of searching for things very easy. You'll see when I'm showing you the map, some of them go by the lot number, like you need it in order to find whatever fragment of the map your building is in these booklets. So make sure you have the square and the lot number. It also shows the year that a building was built. It also shows the source, which I think is super helpful if you're trying to find a lead on like where to look next when you're trying to find out more about your historic site. So this one, DC Historical Building Permits Database, that could be a lead. That might be where my research takes me next. So always just make a note of like where they get the information from. If you read the About page for HistoryQuest, they tell you that they get it from all over the place: newspapers, permits, maps. So make a note of that. You also have the building number. This is often, it's associated with the kind of original permit for construction, which is always great, especially if you are going to the National Archives or you want to search up a specific permit through the DCRA and the DC Archives. You can kind of have the specific permit number right there. Then it has the original owner. So if you don't know who the original owner is of your house or a building, it might be here on HistoryQuest. And if that is kind of your goal that you had in mind, well, now you're a step closer. So original owner, architect, if you're interested in that, the builder. Sometimes it talks about, the materials it was built out of, or the purpose. So this dorm was a young woman's home, so it's like a dormitory for women. So sometimes HistoryQuest will even tell you that, if you're looking at a school or a church or some other building, it might tell you what the purpose was. So estimated cost, if you're interested in that, that is there. The amount of rooms, the amount of floors that it might have. So it really gives you kind of a very general, very baseline amount of information on your building. And sometimes it even has a microfilm roll, which is also good to know if you're looking at the microfilm at like the National Archives or the DC Public Library. They have microfilm as well. I can't say that every site you're going to look up is going to have this amount of information. I think because this was a building used as a dormitory, it might just have more information. But again, you can at least get the square and the lot number, the year built, sometimes the original owner. So it is a really great resource, and I would definitely recommend this being your first step if you're just starting your own research. So HistoryQuest has a couple of cool features when it comes to the map. If you go up here to the right-hand corner, you have a layer list. So there's different layers here, and you can choose historic districts, like I had mentioned. So if you see that the building you're researching is contributing to a historic district, you can find out which one if you're not sure. Like here we have Capitol Hill. So my site that I had looked up was part of the Capitol Hill historic district, and you zoom out. Also color coordinated, which I think is great. So you have the historic districts, you have squares, so different property squares. It is also color coded based on the wards, which is great. And then new building points and historic landmarks. So there you go, which is also great. Yes, so HistoryQuest is a very cool resource. It's pretty accessible, you just kind of have to play around with it a little bit to kind of get used to the functionality of it. But again, it's a great first step in any sort of new project, or even if it's not a new project, if you just kind of need a lead somewhere, sometimes it can really help you out with that. I had mentioned DC by the decades. Hopefully this will work, but yeah, it is animated. So I think it's going to be freezing on me a little bit. I might skip it. But anyway, you can see here, also color coordinated. Each color specifies a specific decade. And if you have time later and you want to like play around with it, you can animate it and you can kind of see the growth of the city. So that's a new feature that they just added. So yes.